all was there, and what, just trying to get a mental picture of what had occurred. And then I went to my van and got my video camera and recorded the scene as best I could. The scene is secured because most of the people are standing on the outside of the house. That's Lance Curtis, Investigator Larry Vineyard, and this is that front porch. We saw the pictures of the cartridge cases.
Yes, sir.
This is going back into the living room. And there are the items under the window again. And you can see back in the kitchen.
Shannon Gale Christian and Hugh Christopher Newsom were a couple who were brutally taken on January 6, 2007 in one of the worst murders ever committed. Christopher was a 23-year-old active golfer. He loved to fish, play tennis, and baseball. It was said that he really enjoyed life and he was either at the golf course, fishing, or playing tennis. He was known for being in love with his girlfriend, Shannon Christian, who was only 21 years old. They were both living in Knoxville, Tennessee. Shannon also loved to play golf and would follow her brother and father to watch them play and later learning herself. She was a senior at the University of Tennessee at the time her and Chris were both savagely taken. On the evening of Saturday, January 6, 2007, Shannon and Chris were planning on going out on a date for dinner and to attend a mutual friend's party. Shannon was waiting for Chris to pick her up at her friend's house after going there to get ready for their date around 8 p.m. Chris was running a little late, and Shannon was a bit frustrated, so when he got to the home, him and Shannon stayed a bit to talk, make up, and share a kiss. Little did they know, there were people approaching, and they were not anyone Chris or Shannon knew. At that moment, their fates were sealed. Chipman Street resident Lamarcus Davison was just released from prison, and he was broke, angry, and needed a car. His girlfriend Daphne Sutton recently ended their relationship. He had no job and no way of making money. Days before the 6th of January, Davidson's brother, Latelvis Cobbins, came to Knoxville from Kentucky to stay with him and brought his friend George Thomas and Thomason's girlfriend Vanessa Coleman with him. Cobbins, Thomas, and Vanessa, alongside Davidson, had no job, money, or cars. Both Thomas and Cobbins were homeless, and according to Lamarcus, they were freeloading in his home and taking advantage of their stay. He increasingly grew angry over what he viewed as freeloading and turned his anger on Daphne, which prompted her to leave him on the 5th of January. One day later, Lamarcus hatched an idea and planned to solve his problems. He asked another friend, Eric Boyd, and Cobbins to help him carjack someone. Cobbins claimed that he insisted he was unhappy with this idea. He stated that him and his brother argued over him saying that he was going to do something, as he put it, crazy. The night of January 6th, they set their plan into motion. They saw a man and a woman sitting in an apartment complex parking lot in a white SUV, cuddling, conversating, and minding their own business. Davidson decided that they were the perfect people to hijack. They crept on Shannon and Christopher from behind her car and confronted them at gunpoint. As this was happening, there happened to be a pair of car lights slowly creeping in Shannon and Chris's direction, and this made Davison panic, so him and Boyd stuffed Chris and Shannon in her SUV and drove them, hands tied, to Davidson's house at 2316 Chipman Street. Once they got there, the horrible torture began. Both Christian and Newsom were assaulted. Newsom was assaulted inside of Davidson's home. He was sodomized with an unknown object and was raped by at least one of the perpetrators. He was punched, kicked, beaten, and repeatedly assaulted. He was then stripped of his shoes and socks, and as he was held by a dog leash, he was walked barefoot on a set of railroad tracks. His hands were bound behind his back, and his feet were bound together. He was blindfolded with a bandana and gagged with a sock. The only clothing he had at the time was a t-shirt and underwear. He was then shot 3 times. The first 2 shots were to his neck and his back. They clearly wanted Newsom to suffer before he died, as they waited a while until the fatal blow to his head. They shot with the muzzle of the gun pressed against his head above his right ear, and they severed his brainstem. Shortly after Chris died, he was wrapped in a comforter sheet and set on fire in an attempt to dispose any evidence that belonged to the men involved. After they were done, they set back to the Chipman house, where Shannon was held captive. Shannon was held in the north bedroom of the house. Coleman was the one who was with Shannon, while Chris was being killed on the tracks. The men who killed Chris returned to the home, where Shannon was repeatedly assaulted and beaten. She had severe trauma to her genitalia, her anus, her mouth from vicious torture. She was severely injured in her head, and it was determined that she also was raped with an object, possibly the same one they used on Chris. She was orally assaulted by Davison and Cobbins and kicked in her vagina repeatedly, which caused extensive hemorrhaging. She also suffered massive bruises and carpet burns all over her body. According to Davidson, Shannon told him that she did not want to die. Before her death, in an attempt to get rid of their DNA on Shannon, she was poured with bleach down her throat, her genital area, and her anus. They repeatedly scrubbed her damaged and abused body with the bleach. She was then hogtied with curtains and strips of bedding. Her head became wrapped in a small trash bag, and her body was stuffed in a total of 5 trash bags before it was forced into a plastic garbage can. She was naked from the waist down, only wearing a camisole and a sweater over it. Shannon slowly suffocated to death and died between January 7th and January 8th. She spent hours in her death chamber, suffocating. After not showing to the party, their phones were blowing up with calls from their friends trying to locate the couple. Around 11 p.m. on the 6th of January, 2 of Chris's friends went to the friend's apartment and found his truck there, but not Christian's SUV. On the 7th, Shannon's mother became increasingly worried about her daughter's location. She did not show up for work, and that's when fear set in. Friends were calling their cell phones, hospitals, and filed missing person reports. Shannon's parents asked for assistance from law enforcement, but was dismissed and told to search themselves. Her mother was able to ping her phone, and it pinged at a Cherry Street phone tower, which led them straight to Shannon's abandoned Toyota 4Runner between 1:30 a.m. and 2 a.m. on Monday, January 8th. Several items were missing, including her phone charger, photos she kept in her car, and her iPod. The front seats were pushed all the way back where Shannon would not be able to reach the pedals. The floorboard was covered with mud, which was not how Shannon maintained her car. She was consistently clean and she cared for her car. Stickers on the outside of her car were removed, and there were a pack of Newports, even though Newsom or Christian had no history of ever smoking. The police found an envelope which had Davidson's fingerprints and they were able to locate his address. On Tuesday, January 9th, the police made their way to 2316 Chipman Street and found no one in the house. They entered and went into a kitchen and saw a trash can. They decided to investigate, and there was Shannon's dead body wrapped in trash bags and suffocated. Davidson's sperm was found in her genitals, her anus, and Cobbin's sperm was found in her mouth. Items that belonged to Shannon were located in the house, including her iPod, her purse, clothes she had in her SUV, her shoes, camera, photos, Chris's baseball caps, and his driver's license. Several of the items had Davidson's fingerprints. His sperm was also found on her jeans, and Cobbin's sperm was found on her camisole, sweater, and her jeans as well. The shell casings found in the house matched to those used to kill Chris. At 12 p.m. the same day, Chris's burned and badly damaged body was found by a railroad worker at the train tracks, and they called the police. They found sperm inside of Newsom, but the DNA was destroyed due to Chris being set on fire. The hunt was now on for Davidson. The police quickly learned of the phone calls between Eric Boyd and Davidson, and they asked Boyd where Davidson was located. Boyd made no hesitation and directed them to a nearby vacant house. On January 11th, Davidson was arrested inside the vacant house. With him, the police found Chris's shoes and a .22 caliber high-standard revolver. He was interrogated, and he told at least 5 different stories, first claiming he knew nothing about the crimes, then later involving Collins and Thomas. He stated they arrived at his house at 10 p.m. on Friday or Saturday and informed him they carjacked some people who were in the car. He claimed he saw them tied up in the back seat and did not want any part of it and left. He said he used Shannon's car to deal drugs and wiped it clean. Davidson claimed he did not go past the living room and never assaulted Christian, which was a clear lie. That same day, Vanessa Coleman, Latelvis Cobbins, and George Thomas were arrested in Lebanon, Kentucky, where they were able to hitch a ride. Police seized the computer Thomas and Cobbins have been viewing news coverage surrounding the murders of Chris and Shannon as a sick thrill to their own crimes. A purse was also taken, and multiple of Shannon's belongings, including a change purse and a cosmetic bag, were found. Cobbins gave a statement to police, which also included Boyd in the crime, as he claimed Eric drove them to the complex for someone to meet up with a girl. They saw the SUV and Shannon in it, speaking to a male, which was Chris. He claimed Davidson and Boyd both confronted them at gunpoint and carjacked them, and Boyd was the one who also drove Chris to the location of his death.
On New Year's of 06, 07, me and my girlfriend and my best friend came down here to Knoxville to celebrate New Year's with my brother. This is the first New Year's that he's been out since we were young teenagers, and I haven't seen him in years, and he had went to the penitentiary for carjacking, so I hadn't seen him, and I just wanted to reunite with him and see how he was doing. I had previously came down 2 or 3 times before that, so when me, my girlfriend, my best friend, and his girlfriend came down here, we spent New Year's together, and Stacy Lawson, George's girlfriend, went back, and we stayed down here. I think it was the first New Year, the first weekend after New Year's, a Friday, I believe, a Friday or Thursday, my brother got into it with his girlfriend, Daphne, and he beat her up, and she left. Saturday afternoon, me and my girlfriend Vanessa was in the back room playing house, I should say, having sex or whatnot. And so we get done. We go in the living room where G is, watch a movie. It's getting dark. It's getting around dark. My brother comes in and calls me into the living room, into the kitchen, and says, hey, you know this girl I've been telling you about that I want you to meet? we finna go over here and meet her. She got a cell for me or whatnot, so I want you to come and meet her. So I'm like, all right, but I can't, how I'm gonna leave, you know, and Vanessa's here. I can't just leave Vanessa like that. He's like, don't worry about it. I'm gonna take care of that. I'm gonna just tell her we going to the store. Just get your shoes and your coat and come on. So I said, all right. So he tells her we're going to the store. I get my coat. We leave. As we're walking out of the house, out of the yard, I notice Eric Boyd, his car is down the street, like 2 or 3 houses down the street. He said E's gonna take us over there. So we get in the car. As we get in the car, he and my brother and E is telling me about this girl, how cute she is and how she get money. She's a hustler and they want me to meet her. And E says he's been knowing the girl for a while because he used to date her cousin. That's how he know the girl. So I'm like, all right. So as E's telling me about the girl, my brother is in the passenger seat and he's rolling up a wet blunt. Well, let me explain what a wet blunt is. It's when someone pours embalming fluid on weed and let it dry and then roll it up in a blunt. So he's rolling up a wet blunt, but I didn't know it was a wet blunt at the time. So I'm just thinking it's a regular blunt. We smoke weed all the time. So he rolls up the blunt, he lights it, takes a few pulls off of it and passes it to me. I'm smoking as they're both telling me about this girl that they want me to meet. So I noticed the blunt tasted kind of funny, but I just thought it was the flavor of the cigar. I didn't think nothing of it. So it's around dark now. It's dark now, and we pull into some apartments. So we're riding around the apartments, and we done rolled around about twice. I'm like, what's going on while y'all riding around the apartments? So he's like, man, it's been a while since I've been to her crib. I gotta remember which one is her crib. So next thing I know, we pull back in a parking spot. He's like, that's her apartment right up there. So we pull back. He puts the car in park, but he never turns the car off. He puts it in park. He looks at my brother, and they both jump out of the car. They run right in front of where we just parked to this white SUV. I noticed at the SUV, it was a girl sitting in the driver's side and a guy standing at the driver's side. The door is open, and they're hugging or kissing or something. So my brother and E, they carjacked these people, and I gets out of the car, man, what y'all doing? What's going on? What y'all doing? So they pull out. He said, man, follow us. I said, man, what are y'all doing? I'm finna go back to the house. I don't want nothing to do with it. Y'all tripping, man. Y'all tripping.
Coleman admitted to being in the house with Shannon, but made up a story that she was also a victim and was held captive. This was easily disproven, especially due to a diary found belonging to Vanessa and an entry from January 9th that states the following. Last night was one of a kind. We stayed with a crackhead. That is cool as hell. It snowed a bit, but it already melted. Let's talk about adventures. I had one hell of an adventure since I've been in a big TN. It's a crazy world these days, but I love the fun adventures and the lessons that I've learned. It's going to be a long, interesting year. That sealed her fate and her clear involvement in the crimes. She had ample time to be able to free Shannon, but she chose not to. She chose to keep Shannon prisoner and watch her be brutally murdered by 4 other men without saying a word. She was also told to kill Shannon by strangling her, but Coleman broke down and couldn't go through with it. That's when Shannon was suffocated slowly with the trash bags. George Thomas faced 46 charges and was indicted on 16 counts of felony murder related to the assault, robbery, and kidnapping of both Chris and Shannon, 2 counts of premeditated murder and 2 counts of robbery, 4 counts of kidnapping, 20 counts of rape, and 2 counts of theft. Cobbins and Davidson had the same charges. Coleman faced 40 charges, only charged with Shannon's murder, and 1 count of robbery of Newsom, 4 counts of kidnapping, 20 counts of assault, and 2 counts of theft. Eric Boyd was also arrested of being accessory to carjacking and failed to report the location of Davidson. He was the only one not charged with murder at the time. Eric Boyd was found guilty and was sentenced to 18 years maximum in a federal prison on April 16, 2008. He is currently located at the Federal Correctional Institution, a low-security prison in Wazoo County, Mississippi. On August 25, 2009, Latelvis Cobbins was found guilty of almost all of his charges. He was convicted of the murder of Shannon and found guilty of facilitating the murder of Newsom, but was acquitted of Newsom's assault. He was sentenced the next day to life in prison without parole. Davidson was found guilty of all charges and sentenced to death on October 28, 2009, and in June 2010 was sentenced to another 80 years in prison, all to be served consecutively. During his sentencing, Judge Baumgardner said that the crimes was one of the most incredibly outrageous, cruel, and inhumane cases this court has ever seen, and stated how people can engage in a type of misconduct is just unexplainable. On December 8, 2009, George Thomas was found guilty on multiple counts and got life in prison with a chance of parole. Vanessa Coleman was acquitted of first-degree murder, but was found guilty of the lesser charges on May 13, 2010. On July 30, 2010, she was sentenced for 53 years in prison. During her sentencing, Shannon's father addressed her by saying, "For me personally, you took my baby. You took my opportunity to say yes to a young man one day. You took my wedding dance away. You took my opportunity to hold her child, my grandbaby." This story isn't over just yet. It was said that the sentencing judge, who was forced to resign on the bench in March of 2011, admitted to being addicted to drugs and purchasing prescription pain medication from convicts, and was accused by a woman of trading legal favors for sex during breaks in court. After resigning, Baumgardner pled guilty to one count of official misconduct. This horrible action impaired the ability for him to conduct the trials during the final 2 years on the bench. A new judge was assigned to handle the appeal of 4 of the perpetrators, and Judge John Carey Blackwood granted all 4 appeals, stating that the former judge had evidence that he was impaired with drugs during the initial trials. Judge Blackwood's ruling for the new trial of Cobbins, Davidson, and Thomas were all shut down, and the order was said that it shouldn't have been due to the judge's past misconducts. In June, Blackwood again granted new trials of Davidson, Thomas, and Cobbins. Retrials were denied for Cobbins and Davidson, but were granted for Thomas and Coleman. At Vanessa Coleman's retrial, she was sentenced to 35 years in prison on February 1, 2013, minus the time already served. In 2014, the Criminal Court of Appeals in Tennessee denied Coleman's request for a new trial, and her sentence was upheld. On June 4, 2013, Judge Kurtz sentenced Thomas to life with parole after 51 years, plus 2 life sentences to be served consecutively for the murders and another 25 years for the assault. In January 2016, he appealed again, but the court disagreed to hear the case and threw it out. Thomas will be in jail for life. 11 years later, on March 20th, 2018, the court decided to charge Eric Boyd with first-degree murder, premeditated murder, robbery, kidnapping, and assault. He went on trial on August 2019, and on the 13th of August was found guilty of nearly all charges. He was sentenced to life in prison. The Shannon Gale Christian Foundation and the Shannon Gale Christian Memorial Golf Tournaments were established in her memorial to provide a scholarship for a high school senior who was attending the same school Shannon went to. Christopher Newsom had a memorial baseball tournament at the Halls Community Park and is given every year to a student graduating and playing baseball. As a result of this case, 2 new laws were introduced in 2014, including the Chris Newsom Act, which was introduced to eliminate the need for a judge's signature on a jury verdict after the delivery of a unanimous verdict. This eliminates the 13th juror rule, which is stipulated that a judge must validate a jury's verdict. Had such of a law been in place during the case, none of the retrials would have happened. The Channon Christian Act restricts attorneys and defendants in attempting to portray a victim in a negative light, such as making allegations about their behavior. During the trial, Davidson had alleged that his victims came to his house to buy drugs. According to Christian's mother, her family felt a great pain as a result of listening to the defense attorneys question Christian's character during multiple trials. Meanwhile, due to laws protecting the accused, the jury was not allowed to be informed of Davidson's previous carjacking conviction. These crimes were brutal, senseless, and tragic. 2 people suffered tremendously and lost their precious lives over people who did not want to live a hard-working life and chose to torture and kill for what they wanted. May Shannon, Gale, Christian, and Hugh Christopher Newsom continue to rest in peace, and wherever they are now at heavenly peace.